Good morning, everybody. It's great to welcome so many of you here today to the Coface Country Conference 2009. I'd like to start with a few words about Coface as a company. It's been just 1.5 years since I took over as CEO for Central Eastern Europe. And as you probably know, Coface has been undergoing over the last couple of years a profound cultural transformation. Coface is a company that has 70 years of experience in the traded trade insurance business. And we serve 50,000 clients worldwide. So 50,000 clients are currently being served worldwide, and today we're present in 100 countries. Our business is anticipating and monitoring risk, and we do this with a very unique infrastructure, a database of over 80 million companies, 50 risk analysis centers, a network of economists that are spread around the world, but are certainly very linked with our core business. So that coupled with continuous investment in technology to make sure that this infrastructure actually stays best in class. We're also a company that takes a position. We have a purpose, and this purpose is for trade. This stands for our commitment to basically developing world trade. Why? Because we believe that this adds value. We believe it also creates economic and political stability. Coface's culture is built around 4 key values: customer service, expertise, collaboration, and courage and accountability. This is supported by 4,100 employees who basically make this global company. Last but not least, our strategy is one of agility. We really feel that this is more and more important today in serving 50,000 customers. These customers trust us to manage their risk day in, day out. And they show this by often creating relationships with us that are on average 20 years and more. Today, the purpose of today is to talk about the risk in 2019. This we will do based on the most recent Coface research, but also on the contributions of our distinguished guests here today, who we're very, very proud to welcome. Let's start off with looking at maybe 2018. 2018 was certainly a year, I would say, full of surprises. We had the election results in Italy that certainly came up with an unexpected coalition. We had the evolution of American policy on many areas. Of course, we talk about sanctions, we talk about the trade war with China, and so on and so on. If we look, we had the financial crisis in Argentina, we had the rise of the Yellow Vest movement in France, and in addition, I hate to mention the B word, but of course, Brexit, a few days basically before D-Day, and we still really don't know what the result is going to be. So I would say we have a lot of volatility there, and if planning today is still necessary, certainly that means that agility is becoming more and more important. But I would say it's not all gloom and doom. Let's take a look at 2019 and look at some of the things that we see in terms of good news. First of all, the US economy is booming, partly due to tax cuts introduced by President Trump. And despite uncertainties, I would say, in terms of rising interest rates, currency, also trade war, the US is reaching full employment. And this is a good thing. Secondly, European companies are investing, and I would say households are still consuming. And this is good. Yes, we do see an uptake in insolvencies, but this is still far from what we saw before the crisis in 2008. Thirdly, although it is slowing down, China is actually still doing well. If we look at most of the published data, China accounted for about 30% of global growth in 2018, and that's pretty impressive. And last but not least, and probably more generally, the middle class in emerging markets is still growing. This creates opportunities for many economies and many, many countries. But nevertheless, many companies, investors, and also markets are becoming increasingly concerned about 2019. So why this worry? Well, we see a number of risks for 2019 that could potentially affect global growth in general. Let's have a look at each one. Political risk, of course, this is no surprise. Coface's political risk index in 2018 has reached an all-time high. Of course, we can cite Brexit, but this isn't the only topic. We have elections coming up in Greece this year. We have a new president in Brazil that's been compared to Donald Trump. And of course, we have Romania, we have Hungary, we have Venezuela, so we have many other topics. In addition to that, where we have political risk, we certainly often have military geopolitical risk. The number of armed conflicts in the world today has doubled in the last decade, and I do think that this is something that we do need to be concerned about. Secondly, the rise of protectionism in general. This is something that concerns us in general, certainly for Coface as a company that really considers itself to be for trade. Admittedly, at this stage, I would say the direct impact of protectionist measures has not really been something significant that wouldn't be manageable. Even if we look at the 10% tariffs that have been put on China, the 200 billion of exports from China, it's been partly compensated by the evaluation of the local currency, but certainly, I would say, in the immediate term, this will certainly take its effect. Maybe on another topic, it's difficult to say that what the future will look like here, but one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The China-US confrontation, if we will call it that we're now witnessing, is not so much a temporary phenomenon. It's really going to become a fundamental geopolitical collision that will probably continue for quite some time. In the shorter term, and maybe food for thought, if these type of protectionist measures have been introduced in the US at a time where the US economy is booming and unemployment is at an all-time low, what could happen if the US economy starts to weaken, or actually when President Trump goes in 2020 into the new presidential campaign? Thirdly, technology. Technology is an opportunity for new companies on the market. We see that today. Digitization is nothing new. We've been digitizing for 20 years. However, technology does pose a threat for established players. If technology is ignored or the players cannot move fast in terms of innovation, this is something that could affect companies going forward. I would say the fourth risk that we see today, and probably in our opinion, one of the most concerning ones, is that of global debt. The world global debt today has exceeded $230 trillion, which is actually 50% more than it was 10 years ago. This debt is probably more risky today than we have seen in the past. Why? Because in the event of a marked slowdown, we believe that central banks will have less rooms to maneuver in terms of easing credit conditions than they had in 2008. And this is concerning. In addition, we have seen a number of topics here. We did a recent study, actually last year as Coface, where for Western Europe, we looked at quantifying the number of so-called zombie companies on the market. Zombie companies are companies that make little or no profit and leverage the artificially low interest rates to stay alive. These companies actually account for 4 to 6% of our companies in Germany, France, Italy, and Spain. And I think that should be food for thought. So I'd like to conclude by looking at some specific Central Eastern European risks, because we're in the region, and I think there are some slight changes as well as the global risk that we should look at. Firstly, Euro slowdown. In Central Eastern Europe, 80% of our exports are going to the Eurozone. In particularly, if we look at Hungary, here yourself in Poland, and also in the Czech Republic, about a third of your exports are going in particular to Germany. Our GDP growth estimate for Germany for this year is about 0.8%. This is a change from last year of 1.5%, and the growth rate that we saw in 2017 in Germany was 2.5%. So this will certainly have its impacts going forward. The second one is we have very specific challenges in the region in terms of labour shortages. Many of our countries are at full employment. This causes increase in labour cost. This also will squeeze margins on companies going forward. And I think this is something very specific to our region. In addition to that, we do see a pickup in insolvencies, and I think this is something we do have to pay attention to. In fact, we're here in Poland today, so 9 out of 10 companies here, based on our latest payment survey, are experiencing payment delays. The third one is Brexit. I come from Ireland, so this is close to my heart. Brexit is, of course, a risk for companies, not only from a potential volume perspective in terms of an important export destination, but what we shouldn't forget is it's also a risk in terms of potential EU budget inflows. This will take effect in 2021, and it's also something that we should bear in mind. And last but not least, political risk. Yes, we in Central Eastern Europe, we have political risk. We have a lot of elections going on this year, that's for sure. We've got presidential elections just finished in Slovakia. We have in May in Lithuania presidential elections, also in Croatia in December. We have parliamentary elections here in Poland, I believe in November. And let's not forget, we have the European parliamentary elections coming up now in May, and also some local elections in the course of the year in Hungary. So we have much going on, and I think we have to also think about I would say the attractiveness also of CEE to potential investors looking at, depending on the outcome of some of these elections. Our regional economist, Gregor Sielewicz, is going to spend a lot more time on these topics today. So I won't go into more detail for now, but I would like to conclude that volatility seems as if it's here to stay. And I think agility is really going to become more and more important as we move ahead. I'd like to thank you for your attention. Sorry for the technical topics that we had here at the beginning. I wish you a very interesting and exciting discussion as we go through the day, and I very much look forward to interacting with you during the course of today. Thank you very much.